Hi, Jeff Rhodes here with another video on Microsoft 365, and today we're going to cover Power Automate. And here's a comment I got some time back asking if it's possible to create a timesheet of total hours summarized by categories. And I don't really use categories myself much in Outlook, but I've created an example. And I do email it. I'm just doing a manual flow, but you could easily schedule it to come up every Monday or whatever, and I show you how to get to the correct day. So it's kind of a long flow, so rather than creating it live, I thought I'd just go over it, because otherwise it's going to be like an hour-long session. So let me get over to it, and actually before I get to it, let's just set up the stage a little bit. So let me go over first to my example. So I took this week of meetings and categorized them. So for example, I like to ride the Falcon Trail. Oops, if I make that a little bit bigger, and go to the categories here. Let me move that up a little bit so I can see it. So here's all my categories. I decided to skip the meeting invite one because I'm not even sure why I have that, but I basically had all these, and I couldn't find a really great way. Those of you who are more into programming, you know, what we really needed is a name value collection or a dictionary type. And in that case, we would loop through and get all the categories, and then that would be the key. And then we get an array or some other type of collection of all the events that went with it. And as far as I know, we can't do that in Power Automate. So if you know how to do that, send me a comment. So we did have to hard code them, set up variables for each one of these categories. But you see this particular one actually gets off the screen a little bit. If I move it over, this is an exercise one. And another one I'll point out, let's see if I can show this run lunch one. So it's got two categories. So I'm planning for it to show up under dining and exercise. And then I've got a private category. So these ones that say private, I don't want them to show up at all on the list. And I've got one here where it's not categorized at all. So I have a not categorized one so that we can do that. And also I have like a trash pickup up here that comes, and I don't have that categorized either. So that's kind of the idea. So we're hoping to get an email. Let me show you what the email looks like. Oh, I thought I had that open. Oh yeah, here it is on this one. So we're going to send an email. I'm putting the start date to the end date and then breaking it out. So I had consulting, here's dining. And notice that run lunch one's there. And then I put the date of it. I didn't want to get into all the time zone stuff. If you want to see all that with the dates of the events, the start date and the end date, I've got other videos because it's all stored in universal time. We got to convert it back to the local time. In this case, since the individual just wanted to sum up the hours, I didn't do the math, but I'm showing how long the event was. So an hour and a half, or 45 minutes, 30 minutes, and so forth. So that's what we did. Notice it did work where I've got the run lunch showing both an exercise. So we don't want to double count it, and then I've got that not categorized. So let's jump in and see how we can make that happen. Like I said, it's a little bit involved, but not terrible. So I'm in the edit mode. So I'm going to manually trigger it here, but it's very easy to just go ahead and add a schedule to run this every time. So I've got going to initialize the start time. And one of my comment people on one of my earlier videos said, hey, you can just use the start of day function. And I actually didn't know that existed. So I'm going to start using it from now. And that gets rid of all the hours. So I don't need to do stuff to format it back to midnight. So start of day UTC now, we'll take the day. Today's a Saturday, but it will then go back and, or that'll be midnight, you know, so 000 on that day. And we'll run through this in debug mode in just a minute. So that's what's going on there. And then I'm going to initially go through, so I'm going to say the day of the week. So I'm going to use the day of the week. Remember, 0 is Sunday, and then it goes all the way through 6, which will be Saturday. And so I'm going to do a variable increment num of integer and make it of type the value of 0. So the idea is I want to go back to the previous Sunday. And so that's what we do here. So we say do, and we do until our var day a week is equal to 0. So what we're going to do is we're going to decrement that variable by 1. So again, if we started on a Sunday, then it would already be 0, and so we wouldn't do anything because that do condition, it would just skip it. But if it's, Saturday, it's going to start at 6. We're going to decrement it, and then it's really important, and I didn't follow my own rules here, so I should have done that. So I'll say var day of, and I already said it once. No, I initialized it, so I can just do that. And so I'm just going to run in that day of week again, but I'm adding the increment num. So again, I'm basically going to subtract a day of the week. So I'll go from Saturday to Friday to Thursday and so forth. And then when this is done, then I'm going to set my var date again. So I'm just going to add days. So I'm going to use that same variable. I'm going to set the date. So I got the start of day UTC now, and now I'm going to add, but since my thing is negative, it's going to add a minus 6 days. So let's go back actually while we're just on that. Oh, and actually, let me save it because I just changed the name of that label. And I'll go back to the previous one that I ran, and we'll just look at that part because we'll probably need to do this several times because it does get a little bit involved. There we go. So let me go back to the most previous time, 14 minutes ago. And let's go back. So let's just see it. So the start date, I can see the output. So notice how it's 0, 0 here, but it's actually, it's interesting. It says it's the 21st. That's interesting. I guess because of UTC, this is in the evening here. That's kind of interesting, but it does go back. Let's see what the day of week num. Oh, it is 0. That's funny. It keeps going all the way through. Let's see what the var start date. So it did go back a week there. So it worked as I intended. It was a little bit strange that it started at 0. So I probably have to fix that logic a little bit to make sure. But it went back to the previous Sunday. It just got a little confused with the time. But I won't take the time now, or with the universal time. But it went and looped through there and subtracted it all the way back to the previous Sunday, which is what I wanted to do. All right, so let's, I'm going to go back to edit mode so we can see the values of these. All right. And then we're going to initialize the end date time. Pretty straightforward. We're just going to add 7 to the start date. So once we got that sorted out, we go 7 days past that. And then this is the part where I was talking about where we needed to make an array. Well, I was going to do an array variable at first, but those are a little less flexible. So these are all string variables. So I'll do one, but I need to do one for each of our categories. So what I did is set up a table that we're going to do. So var company admin, and I've got consulting, dining, entertainment. So each of our categories, and I put this same string in there, but I say, so I did a break. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit there. That's probably a little better. So you can see I put it in bold to get the name of the category, and then I set up the table tags and then put the headings in for subject, date, time spent. Okay, so you can see what I'm going to be doing then. I'm going to be looping through these and adding a row to that table every single time. So again, that's one reason I didn't type all these, but you can copy and paste these, which are really good ones now, and then just rename it. So I did it for each one. And then I have a not categorized table as well. So that covers all that. And then I made a variable called var subject in first category, mainly for debugging. It's nice when you're looking at this to be able, that variable, I just put the subject of the event and the first category on it. Helps me go back and I'll show you that in a minute so that we can tell we're on the right one. And then I did this var HTML output because in the end I want to just show one variable. So I'm going to just add the tables onto this. And as you've seen in previous ones, I went ahead and I had a style here. I typically put this border on already so that it looks kind of nice. You can see from this meeting, that's what put this double lines on. And then I also wanted to try to do a little bit to get the width right, where it takes up 100% of the width of it. So I did a little bit more. And that's where I put this table layout fixed business. So if you're into CSS, that's what that all is. And our next variable is this var categories used array. And the idea is I just want to store which categories have events in them so that we can skip displaying them if there were no events for that. So I'm checking to see if say company administration or exercise are in there. So that it does have a restriction. We don't want to have like one word be a subword of another. So like exercise pull-ups and exercise sit-ups or something like that, because then exercise would catch on both of them. But anyway, so we set up that array, and then I end up putting the same HTML row in no matter which category it is. So it's more efficient to set that up no matter which category I'm inside of. So I called that event line. And then this one's kind of interesting. I set a get category outlet category names, mainly just to check to make sure that it's getting the same bit. So I didn't end up using that, but I'll show you in the debugger how we get it. So here's the good part. So get calendar view of events. You've seen that in my other videos. So I pick which calendar I want, and notice that if you have access to somebody else's calendar, you could do it on their calendar as well. But I just picked mine, and then I put those two variables in there, var start date time, var end date time. And then I order, you've got to kind of look to find this, but it's start and then it's / date time, like that way if you want to order. So I'm not doing any other filters, I'm getting all the events. So then what you do is I loop. So this is apply to each, and I loop on the value. So this, it's a little bit repetitive, but we're going to set that. There's that one where I'm just using for debugging it. So notice I say, I'm going to set the var subject in first category. I grab the subject, and then I grab the first category. And how you get this, if you were doing it yourself, is go over to dynamic content. Got to scroll down here, see more, and go find categories. Whoops, where'd it go? Oh, wait, it's not. I didn't say see more, right? There we go. And you got to go find categories like that, and it puts it in. So I'll cancel that, but that's how you get it. And then we want the first one because this is an array. And we just want, remember where it was dining and exercise, this will get one of them. All right. And then here's real important. This is the event line. So remember how I'm going to add each row. So I put the row tags. Let me zoom in on that a little bit so we can see it better. So I've got the subject, and then I've got that format, date, time. And you'll see I'm just putting month, day, and year on it, so I don't have to worry about time zones. And then I use the date difference. That's how we got like the 45 minutes or the 2 hours or whatever. And I did that in my last video as well. But let's click on that so you can see what it looks like. So I'm grabbing the start time as the first parameter and the end time as the second parameter because I want it to be positive. If you reverse that, which I did first, I put the end first and then the start, and then it was a minus number, which is a little bit confusing. So that's pretty straightforward. And then what we need to do is we need to have a check for each category. Remember, we're looping through each one of these events. So I have like 16 events. And so I need to check each one. And since it can be multiple, categories for the same event, I need to check for each one. The first one I did, which is different, a little bit different logic, is the no category. So if I click here, I had to try this a couple times. So first what I tried is I just said category is equal to blank, but it didn't like that. It just never triggered on it. So I had to look online. And what you got to do is use the empty function. So I get the categories the same way I just did, but I says empty. So this will be true or false. And if it's empty, then if it's equal to true, then I come in here. And so all of these are pretty much the same. So what I use is append to the string variable, and I put the name of the table. So the var not categorized table. And then I just use that var event line on each one. So each one of these are all the same, except I pick all those tables. So for the not categorized, I pick the not categorized table. So let's go to the next one, company administration. So this one's a little bit different on the condition, but then the rest of it's the same. So I use the categories, and then I can change company administration. Now, one thing to note, this is case sensitive, and you can't really use a to lower function like I would normally want to do, because even though I'm able to kind of treat it like a string here, if I put to lower on it, it doesn't like it at all, because to lower wants a string, and this is technically an array, but the contains function does work, which is nice. So as long as you did it case sensitive, but I want an and here because it can have a category and be private, and if it's private, then I don't do anything. So all of these have if categories does not contain private. So only if it's not private and it is company administration, then we come in. So I won't go through all these, but same kind of thing. I pick the correct table and I put that var event line. Oh, and I forgot to show the second one. They're all the same. I do the var category used array, and then I add. So I'm appending to the array what the name of the text is, company administration, in there. And so unfortunately, I don't like using strings like that. So got to be really careful to copy and paste. The other thing to really watch is when you copy, this is a great use for copying the action and then pasting it. But I found it got confused very quickly. So what works is copy the action, paste it, set it up, save. And then make sure it says 2 cases here first. And then you can go ahead and edit it, set it up, save it, copy it again, and so forth. So just something to keep in mind, because otherwise it gets confused. So I went through all those and get to the end. Okay, so let's go ahead and go back and look at the run history for a second. Make sure, so we can kind of go through there to see why I put those variables and stuff in. All right, so we go through here. Scroll up a little bit. Oh, looks like there's 15 total. I said 16. I think I deleted one of the events. So what we can do is click on that var, subject and first category to see what it is. It says Wizards Academy here was escape room, and the first category was entertainment. So that's why I put that in, so we could really tell. So if we were going to debug this now, then I want to come down here and go to entertainment and make sure that it went down the true thing, which it did. But like, for example, that dining one, at first it wasn't working and it wasn't obvious why it was. I had to delete the condition, put it back in until it worked. But anyway, that's how you can set it up. The other thing I didn't show you, that Outlook categories, just to show that it was the same thing. So I can scroll down and see those are all the meeting invite, out of office, private, company administration. So all those categories, I could have gotten out of this list. But again, there wasn't any way to really dynamically make the variables. So certainly this is what I came up with to go through and set them up into their own variables. All right, let's go back to edit. So now we have all the tables built, which are, again, company administration, dining, entertainment, exercise, all my categories. So let me scroll way up here. So I loop through all of those. And then what I have to do is check that array to see if it's available, if it's there. So I'll just do a different one. Let's check consulting here. So now I check that array variable. If it contains consulting, then I append to my var HTML output and I put the consulting table in there. But the other thing I got to watch is I need to put in the closing HTML tag to close the table. So I put that variable in there, but I also close the table, and then I just do the same thing for each one and use the same technique. So again, if the categories contains dining, then I come in, append the HTML, and now I grab the dining table. So when you, again, want to copy and paste the whole thing, set it up, save, copy again, set up and save, exactly like the other ones, because you might imagine I had to copy each one of those. So we're almost done now. So what we want to do at the very end is send an email. So I just sent myself an email, and I'm going to format. So again, I'm going to format the date and time, and I'm going to use my variable start date and time, but I don't want all the minutes and stuff. So I just format it month, day, year. If we go back to our email, that's this part. So I said 9/14 to 9/21. And then I just put that var HTML output into the body of the email. And I could have done a Teams chat as well. So let's just test it and watch it again. So we can just, I already showed you what the email looks like, but it's how I had to test it to make sure it was all working. And I'll pause it for a second while we wait for it to run. All right, so it's done, and it shows over here. I can close this. So again, let's just check, like, look at not categorized. So it did have that we're not categorized, so it appended the output, it sent the email, and so forth. I just opened the new email. Let's see, that's the new one. Notice it's 7:36 p.m. So it has the same kind of thing like we looked at before. It's got all the, there's the two not categorized, and the one I was showing you before was 7:02 p.m. So those were the things, and we're good to go. Again, all we'd have to do with this one is just change it to a scheduled flow, run it whichever day of the week we want to, and it would set that up. So Hope this was helpful, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And if you need some help with some consulting or training, let me know. Thanks and have a great day.